Good morning. It is 8:33 on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024, and this is the meeting of the Sandpoint Arts, Culture, and Preservation Commission, and we are now called to order. For the record, I am Chairwoman Ellie Suskas, presiding in City Hall Council Chamber, located at 1123 Lake Street in Sandpoint, Idaho. Commission members who are present are Holmes, Rick Dicker, Self, Karen Wiedemeyer is on Zoom and Keely Gray is on Zoom as well.
Keely's been sent an invite, but she's not attending yet.
Who's on? Mike Lithgow is on Zoom. Keely is absent. Kate McAllister is absent and Barry Burgess is absent. Proceed with the approval of the minutes. The commission's last meeting. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from May 14th, 2024. May I have a motion? Anna Combs moves.
Second.
Decker seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Let's move on to the financial report. You want to give the update for that?
Yes. So these are the numbers as of May 31st, 2024. The Sura Art Fund, we have a total for downtown of $181,083.11. In the Northern District, we have $100,590.02. The silver box advance to date, reserve funds were $18,315.22. The remaining balance in that account is $1,684.68.
Does anyone have any questions on that?
So it looks like if we want to do another round of the silver box, we wouldn't have enough money to do that. So do we vote to allocate money from the Sura funds?
You're totally tracking, Hannah. We have on here the discussion of Sura Public Art Fund. So brilliant.
Yeah, actually, that. Sounds good. And moving on to number 2, the Historic Preservation Team update. Update on the progress of the SHPO CEG grant for the Historic Walking Tour brochure.
Perfect. So things are going really well with the walking tour brochure, and we're working on, right now we have a tentative cover and a new map for the additional chapter that we're highlighting, which is the City Beach area. And then we're just continuing to plug away on photo captions and so forth. So what's great is that we have a nice set of deliverables for the State Historic Preservation Office Community Enhancement Grant. So as a reminder, that's the matching fund for the SUR dollars that are supporting the update and reprint of the brochures. It's a $2,500 that we're asking, and that's the max of the grant. It's been brilliant because I'm working with Garrett Fitzgerald, and he's new to grant writing here at the city, and he's quite brilliant. So we've already had a meeting, and we have another meeting today. So it's wonderful to be able to have additional city staff support. And I'll let you all know when it's before it's submitted, I'll send it all out. The submittal deadline is July 1st.
Any questions on that? Right. Yep, we're plugging away, doing research, getting things done. Now then, the updates on the historic walking tours.
So we have our first tour on Friday, the 28th of this month at 10 o'clock. We meet in front of the Canada. Michael Bigley will be leading that tour. I'll be pushing out information on that as we get closer. Cami and her team through Parks and Recreation have been doing a lot of fantastic publicity. I'll additionally be putting it on the City of Sandpoint's social media outlets and website as well. We're pointing our tour givers, let's say, as historic storytellers.
Yes.
And it's kind of expanding. And I've talked with Hannah about this because a lot of the Lake Ponderay repertory theaters, and I've been speaking with Kaylee, of course, as well, have loved doing a joint tour with a local historian, or I've also had a lot of individuals that have lived that history here that are locals. So being able to pair kind of that theatrical element with kind of that lived it, seen it, done it kind of moment, I think is like a perfect pairing. So we're going to put our brains together and figure out how we can expand our historic storyteller group and see if we can do some larger, offering of dates. I also look forward to do a training with them about how we can kind of do a deep dive in certain areas, particularly when it comes to the history behind historic details on buildings that have that signature historic character. So I'll let you all know when we'll set that first date or that training session. If anybody knows of anybody that's interested, please have them contact me and we'll get them signed up to be a signature historic storyteller of the community.
Wonder if Jennifer would. She'd be brilliant. Should ask her.
Sandy Compton. Yeah.
Sandy Compton, yes.
Sandy Compton, Jennifer Wood. If you're listening. That's great. We'll have to reach out to them.
Absolutely. All right. If there's any, are there any other questions on that? Let's move on to the nomination for Preservation Idaho Orchid Award.
Okay, so I'll take you guys through my screen here. We, excuse me, pull it up here. So I sent this nomination out to all of you ahead of time. And this is for the Orchids and Onions Award through Preservation Idaho. The nomination is for 301 Cedar Bellwood building. We know it today as the Ponderay Winery, owned by Julie and Steve Meyer. We were really lucky this year to be able to have the support of our community citizen volunteers, Carrie Logan and Steve Garvin. Historically, they've supported the Orchids and Onions in our community, and they did a fantastic job gathering all the elements that we needed for the nomination. And Ellie generously gave us her time in organizing it and putting it all together. So it's in one really wonderful, concise package to be able to be submitted. As a staff liaison, I'll be submitting it on behalf of all of you, because you as the commission are who is nominating the building. Any questions? This is the document that I had sent out. So cover page. So each section, and Ellie, please interject. These are direct requests of what they're asking for the submission. So this is the project summary. And one thing I just want to mention, we had a really nice discussion about this. I could not believe that was the Bellwood building. So the thought is that they had stuccoed over it and did some painting.
Yeah, the 70s weren't kind to.
And then we have, the one it's worthy here. And Ellie, you pointed out that they actually were able to remove the stucco by using some sort of heat process, like a steam heat, which is the best preservation practices instead of trying to sandblast something.
Right.
To be able to
reveal
what's underneath.
Preserves the brick and what's underneath, and I'm sure that's how they were able to save the ghost signs.
So yes, that was brilliant. And that's actually right here. Ellie, you were the one that took this photo up here of the original ghost sign.
Yeah, when that was revealed, it was amazing.
What year was that you took that picture?
It had to be like 2019, I think.
Before the addition was put on? The glass?
Yeah, that was during demolition.
I think
It's
I thought
early.
that was the renovation.
Oh, well, let's look at our document.
Well, while you're finding that, I just want to make a comment about the 70s. Thank goodness that they were just like layering on like their goodies, because what it did was it preserved everything from the history's past. So the shag carpet preserved the hardwood floors, right? And then the stucco preserved the front.
The
So-
70s just wrapped the presents.
They
for us.
did.
That's all.
Totally, I'll add your name to that quote.
Yeah, there we go.
My dates are like, I don't even know what day.
When does it do?
So they finished it in 2013, so that she must have been taken in.
Life is a blur, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's probably right by.
We're so glad you did.
Mm.
And Ellie was generous enough, like in the 9th hour, to also, this is after the renovation, it's absolutely gorgeous. And this is considered the designation for the award is a contribution to preservation, because you will notice that it does have aspects of modernity melded into the historic design. So there's different types of nominations.
You know, I think I remember though, talking to Nancy maybe about the like portico they created over the front door being copied after those, you know, the big like iron beams on
Oh,
First
yeah.
Avenue. I think she said that they kind of copied that idea.
Oh, that's so brilliant.
From the past to go on into the future.
Yeah, and Bowdoin Architecture was their lead. I
Oh, that's
did
cool.
design on. We have some great articles that supported the renovation during time. And then Ellie wrote a great letter of support conservation project. And it's all ready to be submitted. So my ask of you guys, I need feedback, any changes to the document that needs to be made, any edits, comments.
Did find more typos after we looked at this one, so, and I added one more photo. So there's just a few more changes that I did, and whatever we here, and then
Perfect. In this middle date, the deadline is the 15th.
actually it's Friday the 14th.
The 14th, thank you.
So
Well, I'm submitting it tomorrow.
yeah, I know. You want
That is
Get
the
a jump
day. Sounds good. No comments on changes, edits. Okay.
I just again wanted to thank Carrie Logan and Steve Garvin for their wonderful work in the community and for this time.
Thank you for all the time that you put into it.
Yeah.
All right, then if there's no other questions, let's head on to the Sandpoint residential call for information.
Okay. So the other concept that's supporting the updates to the walking tour brochure, and we've talked about this, was that residential call for information. So in previous meetings, we talked about the content, and Hannah and Ellie and Barry did a fantastic job putting this Google form together. Hannah put the Google form together, and then Ellie and Barry pulled that signature branding into this document that will be tied to the historic walking tour brochure. I did present this to Sura in the last meeting, and they loved it so much, and they loved the continuous branding as well, that they were, I think a few of them were actually asking if that's something that they could use. So that's a huge compliment. So the feedback has been really successful. Our intent with this document is to be able to easily reach out and connect to the community, to be able to obtain more information and preserve it in the museum's archives, for eternity, I'd like to think. And so we felt like this Google form was quite brilliant. It's attached to our Arts, Culture, and Historic Preservation team's Gmail account, which all of you have access to. So if you'll notice, and I sent this all out to you as well. So again, I'm looking for feedback, edits, changes. And I know it was a short timeline. I sent it out to you yesterday morning, but we also encouraged all of you to try to apply and submit so we could see on the back end what that looked like. So
how do we see those finished documents?
we would pull up our Gmail account. Unfortunately, I was kind of swamped yesterday, so I didn't have a chance and this morning to pull it up, but I certainly will today.
Okay.
Did anybody have a chance to go on there?
I did it this morning.
Okay, very good.
I did. I filled it out just because.
Why don't I go ahead and let me pull that up really quickly. I apologize for taking you guys through the backside here.
I didn't submit.
How was your experience?
So my first thought was like, this doesn't pertain to me. You know, in like a 10-year-old house, like no character, nothing fun, you know. And so I guess like that was kind of like the real world. You know, we're sitting in here like we want those stories. And then when it comes to like me actually doing it on my phone, like, well, this isn't me, you know. So like I think if we could educate, like guide the public as far as like every story is a great story, or maybe put like, well, if it was born, you know, built in the last couple of years, yeah, we don't, you know, unless it's amazing architect. I don't know. I don't know if we could just give some sort of like
Context.
encouragement or reasons that you would want to do this, even if you think it doesn't matter to you, or so that was my first take.
So no ghosts, even if it's a 10-year-old house. That's what you're saying.
I think so.
Okay. Good to know. Well, no, I really appreciate that feedback, and it will be interesting to see what comes out of it. There's been one or two people in the community that have recently done rehabilitations and want to be on some sort of, you know, acknowledgement program. And right now the brochure serves as that in terms of residential particularly. So as long, like, I'm feeling like we're winning if we can just use this to capture with the one or two to include into the brochure. And then we continually can craft this and keep pushing it out to gather further information.
Karen, did you have a comment?
Yeah, well, so I filled it out and I had some fun with it, you know, especially when it comes to the story part, because there's a lot of oral stories, right? You know, a transmission from neighbors, what they have said, but nothing, you know, that we can say for sure happened on our property. What I will say is our particular neighborhood, we are right next neighboring property to Sandpoint Woods. And I felt compelled to fill this out because this neighborhood is being developed, you know, in the blink of an eye. So knowing that, I think it's good to know what is there. So when developers come and make decisions of what they want to put there, to kind of say, okay, do we just want to take, you know, these houses out or down, or what is their angle on developing that particular area as it is developing so quickly? That was my desire. That's why I felt, okay, I'm going to fill this out, and our little house will appear somewhere, and people will see this is what's there and what should be there in the future.
That's brilliant. I like how you're talking about the context of property. And I think that's something that's really important to understand. And also neighborhood identity too. And as these neighborhoods are so quickly changing, I think anything we can do to support kind of the foundation of how they were established so they can feel like they're properly moving into the future, I think is brilliant. I appreciate you mentioning that. We did talk too about doing bicycle rides together and going and So we have this as our tool, but also as we have our own homes, right? But then we also can go around and look for other opportunities and maybe send this to individual homes that we may want to know more information in a really respectful way.
And we did set it up in a way that you don't have to be the property owner to fill out a form about a property. So you could like fill it out with your neighbor or something, if that would help.
Oh, that's brilliant. So this is a project under the program Cultural Collective Campaign, again, where we're actively collecting our community's history to be able to share it in projects and then preserve for longevity. And Hannah, you are going to push this out, is that correct?
Yeah.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll additionally push this out through our traditional media sources. I also think, and I need to work with the mayor on this, he does all of the communications for the city currently, that having some sort of press release that could go into the Reader and View would be really wonderful as well.
So when you do that, let's communicate so that we can have like a little graphic that is exciting and makes people want to.
I did have one technical comment. There's a question where we said, how long have you lived in your house? And when I filled that out, I was like, oh, 10 years, no, 9 years, no. So I think it might be more exacting if we say, what year did you move into your house?
Oh, yeah.
Just because I've so many interactions with people where they're like, oh, this was 38 years ago. And it's like, actually, it was 20, but like, the memory.
Literally, I just did that.
2019.
But I filling it out was more fun than I expected. And it made me like really curious, like the question that says share stories about people who've lived there before. You know, I was like, oh, I kind of remember someone telling me about this. Maybe I should reach out and see if I can get more of that story. So it made me want to connect more to people. And I found out Ward Tift had built my house.
Oh, no way.
Which I had no idea. So I didn't know he was a
yeah. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, did you have any comments or questions?
Sorry, no.
Well, this is exciting. It's great to hear the feedback. And this is a living document, so we can continually change it and, mold it according to how it's appropriate and serves the intent. But this is really exciting. And I think it's a new way to gather information in a kind of a non-traditional way from a preservation standpoint, because historically we'd hire consultants and do surveys, and certainly that's really important for nomination. But when we're trying to do more education and advocacy documents, particularly with residential, I think that this is going to be a wonderful way to do it.
Well, and the surveys are really only concerned with the facade of the building. They don't really get into the interior or the stories of the people live there. So this feels a lot more comprehensive.
I guess.
You were talking about going on a bike ride and going around the different houses and stuff. And if we had a flyer with a QR code to this, that links this, that we could put on, the door handles or whatnot.
Okay, so a one-page flyer QR. Is the QR code something that you could help with?
Yeah, for sure.
I know in today's world, though, this probably just is like a button.
Yeah, basically.
I have a slight different question, and I don't know if right now is the right time. But I noticed, I just can't remember what building was there. I think it's on Church Street, either Church or Oak, where that building was torn down. Does anybody know what was there before? I can't remember. In downtown area, on the other side of Fifth Avenue. I thought it was that blue historic duplex, but I might be wrong. I was just curious if somebody knew. It happened almost overnight. It just went down really quick. I didn't even see it. That was demolished, and I just don't remember right now what was there. And I thought maybe somebody knew. It's in a residential area.
Oh, on the west side of Fifth?
Correct.
I'm not sure, Karen. Maybe we can talk about it after.
Okay.
We'll look that up. Okay,
All right,
good to have our feelers up.
yeah, for sure. Let's head on into the community character hour. What's your topic this week?
Yeah, we are going to be talking about tourist parks. So last time we did a show on hotels, and now we're going to segue into tourist parks, which were sort of this like funky, like not a hotel, not camping, not a boarding house, something kind of in between. That was pretty unique, especially at the city beach. But we found out there were 5 or 6 different tourist parks within Sandpoint, which is interesting. And then we'll see, I think into the rest of the summer, we're probably going to be moving in the direction of kind of the city beach areas. This would be a good bridge between.
It's been fun to see how the feedback's been really positive, and just a variety of community members have reached out and talked about how much they enjoyed it. And we've kind of allowed it to be a little bit organic in terms of the topic, which has been really fun. And so with tourist parks, we also are going to share bizarre, fantastic moments that would have happened in terms of activities. And so these were called bathing houses or Victorian bathing tents. And essentially it was a way to make sure that you weren't exposed, but you were enjoying the activity of being in the water during the Victorian period.
I mean, like, here, obviously they're exposed getting into the
Anyway,
house. But with the wheels was the idea originally that you could like climb into it in your Victorian gown, be wheeled out to the water, then take that off inside this little outhouse thing, and then
drowned. Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that this is the most fantastic phenomenon that like ever. I mean, the lack of like thought, I think, is just quite brilliant. So there's just lots. So if you are bored and do a little Google on Victorian bathing houses and tents because it's a wild ride. And then Hannah, we have to find these are your ticklers to get you to tune in. So wasn't there that story about the bear and the picnic?
yes, I still have to track it down, but I remember reading a story about a family, some over from Spokane or something. They were staying at the tourist park, which was basically like a little tiny cabin, um, near kind of where the Edgewater is today. And uh, they had just set up this big family picnic. The mom was like coordinating all these kids and like making sure everything was taken care of. And she turns her back for 1 minute and a bear sneaks up and is trying to like grab sandwiches. And she just like, to me, it just sounded like classic mom, just fed up with things not going the way she wants to go. And she's just like, no, it just smacks the bear on the nose and sends it off. So that's the most exciting story.
Like a kid.
Press.
No problem.
Yeah.
So
Fantastic.
and I think like what we're finding out too, and this is what I love about history so much, is a lot of what we're experiencing today is stuff that people experience all the time. Luckily, we aren't experiencing bears in our picnic. That has changed, but I think we can look to history to kind of put ourselves at ease and know that these are situations that have been going on for a really long time. How did we deal with it back then? And that's kind of like a subtle, like fun thing, I think, that comes out of that show as well.
And can you tell us and what time that show
It's
is?
gonna be 8 o'clock on the fourth Monday of the month. This month is the 24th.
And it's on KRFY.
Yeah, KRFY, and it's live. And then they're also, don't they do a secondarily
Yeah,
feature on it?
they replay it on the second Monday of the fall.
You guys are on 2 Mondays a month. That's great.
I was almost late to our meeting yesterday morning because it was on the replay was on the radio.
All right, all listeners out there, make sure you tune in. All right, well, heading on then, if there's no other questions, let's go to the art team update.
Okay, so we've got a few things going on. Let's start off with arts by celebrating one of our fantastic public art pieces. Oh, lagging on my screen. See if it will go back and do it a different way. Sorry, guys. Stream feedback. Okay. Okay, so Ellie, I'll pull up this image and I'll have you present it.
Well, speaking of dates, it's hard to believe, but it's been 5 years since the Celestial Sierra sculpture in the Schweitzer Cutoff Roundabout was installed June of 2019. And I just wanted to celebrate the fact that we pulled that off. It was amazing. That was done with Sura dollars. The bridge was being replaced at that point, and there was some back and forth where we didn't know if we were going to get those federal dollars for that, and so we were stop, go, stop, go. Let's put something in that roundabout. And when we finally got the go ahead, we we're like running, and we put out a call. 150 responses. The cafe. We had been thinking we would go regional with the call, but then city council said, go ahead and put it out national. And so then we got 150 responses. We knocked that down to 73, due to criteria.
So that was just which was actually
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So that, but that's pretty good turnout. And we narrowed it down to 3. We had a robust selection committee, quite a few meetings that we narrowed it down to that 3. Then the 3 artists that were selected actually came here to present. So we had Troy Pillow, who ended up doing it. He came from the Seattle area. We had someone come from Oklahoma and someone from Boise, a team from Boise were the finalists. So that was exciting, and they presented and made models. There was very great discussion on how we would do it. In fact, Troy had originally designed this out of core 10 steel, which is, rusty looking. And that was one of the things that panel said, we don't really like the rusty. Let's something different. And he came up with the stainless steel idea with the color to bookend the blue from the south end of town. So that was exciting. And, it's a durable material. And Troy is a consummate artist and had a wonderful resume. And I think that's one of those really important things that we have to think about when we're selecting art city, is that it's durable and it's going to last the test of time, especially this being the most expensive piece of art that Sandpoint has ever installed. So the budget was $90,000 for the sculpture and $20,000, I believe, for the landscape design. And I think we came in under budget on the landscape design. So we ended up
And that was local, was that?
That was local. That was Karen Olson. Yeah, she's fabulous.
She has asked her now.
Yeah.
But before she was probably just doing the design work.
Right.
So that's really good. Just frame of reference that it's taken about 5 years to get our SURA funding for the North District back up to the level where we could do a project of this kind of budget again.
Correct. And yeah, I just wanted to also mention, it's kind of exciting that it was abstract. We got some feedback on the abstract, but it's beautiful, and it's the gateway to our light industrial zone in Sandpoint. And I mean, you can interpret it in a lot of different ways, even pertaining to our industrial area or the mountains and so.
It's so powerful hearing the story behind this piece. I had no idea, and as you're sharing this, I wonder, like, would it be appropriate to have some sort of plaque, right?
Yeah.
Like telling the story.
But then I was thinking, because it's in a roundabout,
That's true.
is there a way that the signage, like, that people could read while driving?
Or QR code that goes back to our website, and each art, like the dream would be each art piece, and this could also go on some art story map on our website, would have its own bio. This is quite brilliant, right? It
Although-
really brings it to life.
A lot of people actually do walk through that. There are good established sidewalks right now, so there are a lot of people. The sign somewhere on the perimeter.
Go to that.
And
Thank you
then,
for sharing.
oh, of course. And, it goes back to, we do need to work on our art inventory and getting that up on the website, then we can put the stories. Yeah.
This has to be one of the most visible art pieces in the area. How many people are going by that?
Right.
Out of towners going up to Schweitzer and everything too. It's cool.
I'm actually really proud of it. The people that were on the commission at that time, that was just the art commission at that point before we combined. We put in 2 years probably of planning, and Megan Cherry was a big part of that. Karen Diener was the chair at the beginning of the project, and I was the chair at the end of the project. So, it transitioned a couple of
It's amazing.
a wonderful project, and I'm very proud of it. And it's withstood the test of time, and I'm very happy. It'll last a few more years too.
Yeah.
Well, kismetly enough, we got a notification through Engage Sandpoint from a mayor in Ridgefield, Washington, and he was so impressed with the roundabout. If I could send photos and information, this was a few days ago.
No
I thought that was really neat. And so know that it doesn't go unnoticed, and it's setting examples for others. That's off to all of you who are a part of that.
Do we only have 2 roundabouts with art? Do we only have 2 roundabouts?
I think we only.
But we are talking about potentially, that was one of the ideas in the design report on First and Superior, putting a roundabout there. And I think roundabouts are a wonderful way to display an artful piece. The other roundabout on Larch is kind of interesting in terms of the history.
Yeah, so the Larch Boyer roundabout, that the artwork that is there was recycled from a different area. So those panels that are there used to be hanging along Oak, along the farmers market, Farman Park. And Tammy Farman made those. And they sat in storage for a few years. And then when they put the roundabout there at Larch, Carol Diener was chair at the time, and she spearheaded that, reusing those panels in that area. And we did spend some money to we had to sandblast some paint off of it and recoded them so they would be protected. But there's panels there, and there's actually panels. Some of those panels are on the water treatment plant out on the jetty at City Beach.
Oh, yeah,
So
That's really neat.
that was a really great way to keep our art out in the public.
That's cool.
if the when the roundabout at Superior happens, that be within the downtown district, or is it outside?
It's right on the cusp. We would have to get it.
If there is something like that where it's maybe just outside. Is that something that we could apply to Sura for an exception, or are they like really strict about those?
It's a great question. I'd have to get back to you. I think a lot of times though, it takes a lot of creative minds at the table to figure out best platform.
Because it makes a lot of sense that something significant would go there.
Sort
All right, any other questions on that? Moving on, community-driven art program, painting the plaque. Oh, wait, I skipped. While we're discussing Sura, we have it on here, discussion on Sura Public Art Funds.
This is a real exciting one. It's good to hear.
Did we skip the parking lot too?
Oh, we did, sorry.
So I'm pulling up the parking lot now. Yeah, no problem. So as a reminder, we've been invited to participate in sharing our history and implementing art in the revitalization of downtown parking lot. We had a team go out and do an assessment, and we shared this at the last meeting, just looking for different opportunities that would work for art and storytelling. And we talked about asphalt art and interrupting art moments. We also discussed different things such as removing the chain link fence. This tree actually grew up into the fence. Maybe we keep that as an art installation. And then in our last meeting, we said the next step was coming up with a theme. So a team of us got together and we came up with a theme. What was there before? It was a parking lot. It was a farm and school. It was a really important building. It was a 3-story, beautiful brick building built in 1906 with a gorgeous cupola. And it was torn down in the 70s. And the amazing thing about this school is that there's so many people that are still around today that have prolific memories of it. Lots of stories. So what's happening right now is we're working with the museum and their oral history department and getting a group together to kind of do a panel. And that's being led by a community Sally Sue. And she went to school there and she's getting a group of people that did too. And we're going to sit and they're going to share stories. And I think sometimes when you do an oral history in a group environment such as that, it can be really powerful because they kind of ping off of each other. So we're really excited to get that up and going. She's working on that right now. And so this really is the nucleus of placemaking when you tell the story of history and culture and you do it in an artful way. So how can we share this story? What if we were able to take the images and quotes and all of those things and share it in a very artful way in collage form? And I see different possibilities such as, doing a whole story of panels. And then you can take whatever graphic that comes from that and it can be carried into asphalt art in the parking lot. In the parking lot with asphalt art, you can have like different Foursquare and Skip Hop and all the little with asphalt games that you would play with chalk. And those could be kind of parking lot squares. So I think you all are kind of tracking about how you can use this theme and tell a story, but it can be really from an unusual perspective. Another thing that could be done if we were to do a bench, it could have a ruler on it. And again, like that abstract, vibrant theme that comes from the collage that's carried into the graphic that's painted on the asphalt could be on the bench as well. So you're curating with that cohesive look and theme. And I actually just made this up as a visual for you guys, but there's this oral history that's online from this school. And apparently there was a pretty harsh teacher. And I believe it was Moon. He was a young boy and he was left-handed and she would hit him so hard with the ruler on the left-hand side that he learned how to be right-handed. So obviously this isn't a story that we would organically have on an interpretive panel next to the bench. But if you have a ruler on the bench, then our historic storytellers can glide by and be like, that looks like an artful piece, but there's actually more to the story. And it ignites them and they can tell that story. So I think there's just really fun and cheeky ways that we can bring that storytelling to life that's super creative. So what I'd like to do for next steps, we need to evaluate the budget that we have to work with. And knowing that that probably took about 5 to 7 years to get to where we are with the downtown budget, and there's other projects. How much does the commission want to designate for this project? So that's your first step. And then off of that, what type of deliverables do you want to see in terms of that storytelling? And then also, what are the requests from leadership and Sura for this project? And some of the things that have been mentioned would be like a kiosk, so it would have community events on there. There'd be like a sign. So we would bring those to life in a very like curatorial and cohesive way. So do you guys like this idea of the placemaking and where we're kind of headed with this? And the world's our oyster in terms of how fun it can be.
My mind went there. When I saw the ruler, I was like, should we talk to somebody that went there and make sure there's no like PTSD from those rulers? So that's funny. That's right where you went to.
He's actually unfortunately no longer with us.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Not because of the rules.
Right. Yeah. Maybe.
Just playful, right? Whenever we have integrate playful art in one way or another that stipulates imagination, we are engaging. So, and the purpose is for us to engage, also partially our community. So to invite them in one way or another to participate. Art is about engaging and participation. So I actually think there's a lot of fun, and the more fun items we can share with the community, I think the more successful we will be. So I actually think this is very cool.
There's one story that we heard from a gentleman. So for a long period of time, the third story was condemned because it would like shake when you were up there. And but everyone would sneak up there apparently. And you'll have to support me on this one. They used to throw paper airplanes from the top of the building. And this one, like, I guess, like, went like 3 or 4 blocks down. It was like a legendary paper airplane story. So I'm thinking, like, do we have paper airplanes that are like ceramic, let's say, or some sustainable material that are hanging from the trees? Like, I just think that this is our opportunity to really show how powerful we are in terms of placemaking. So I'm excited about it. Okay, well, with your guys' feedback, I really appreciate that. Let's continue forward. So who would like to be a part of the taking this placemaking a step farther? And just so you guys also understand, all of this would be, once we figure out what we want, it would all go through a call to art process, utilizing an artist roster, which we'll talk about next meeting. So for instance, if we wanted to do some sort of historic photos, collage, we'd work with the museum on how it's sustainable for you guys and so forth. But then we would also do a call out to the community for the design of that. So everything would have an artist design, and then the artist would be compensated for their work as well.
I think for the museum and capacity, it would be easier for us if we put together like a resource kit for this project and had pre-selected maybe like you can find 15 photos and 5 or 6 anecdotes about the property that we could just put together, and that could be distributed to all of the applicants. And if any of them want to do additional research, they're welcome to, but I think that would just limit the amount of time our staff would have to take to go and find essentially the same information for 20, 30, 100 different people. So I think that would be easier on our end.
And then the commission could compensate you for your research time of putting that packet together and the photos as well too, which all goes back to the master plan, supporting our cultural institutions and our artists. So I love that. So who would like to be a part of this strategic plan for understanding funding? Anybody else?
Yeah, you can put me down.
Okay.
I will definitely help put that resources together.
Perfect. Okay. And then if you're not here today, of course, you can text me and let me know if that's something you're interested in. Thank you all so much. I'm really excited about this project.
Great. So many
Well,
people don't know what was there. I think it's going to be
it's hard to find too. Because I think years ago, maybe it was talked about. And so I was trying to like look up pictures, or all I remember is like, oh, Joel's building's on top of it now, or, something like that. Like, I don't see anything. Like Joel's building's been there for a long time too. And so I just, yeah. So it's nice to see pictures and then start hearing more stories about it.
And as much as I appreciate traditional history interpretive signage, like I think this is a really fun, unique way to tell a story without just like photo, narrative text.
Yeah, I love it.
I'm leaning towards the etched glass.
I love that too.
Wouldn't that be sweet down there?
I'm just thinking in the parking lot with the activity and cars and stuff, but we're gonna have to make that search. But we can look into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that could be like the farm and school, and you could like have exactly.
You could see exactly where it is.
Yep.
There's like a little X on the ground that you have to stand on, and you can see it.
And I think that's important to understand who could do that and then the cost involved. And like, is that even something that can be done in this region?
So that's kind of an interesting one with this project, is I think there's going to be a design element, like a graphic design element. And then there's also going to be fabrication of potentially kiosk, bench, sculpture. Is this something that one artist can complete all of that, or we would have someone kind of, okay, we would have groups apply to do it? Okay.
It's like this region would be one artist, over here would be another.
So a large support of different mediums, which I think is really cool and impactful too. And I could even see like calm down on the creativity, but this is what I would call like a bench that's like a giant jacks, but it like you sit on it, and then it has like the jacks ball, and then so there's just so many.
Well, and we've had collaboration similarly before. For instance, the silver boxes were fabricated, but the panels that were on there were designed by a local graphic artist. So, that's an example.
Well, and then so that also goes kind of back to we have a few things that we really do need to work on, which is like our public art policy, but then also how we do art calls, which gets us back to this roster idea. And it functions in two ways. It helps with our procurement process of art calls, number one, and number two. And I'll get the presentation at our next meeting of what it exactly looks like, but it would function as like a directory for artists. So there'll be a really definitive set of criteria, which we'll decide on. And then we can update it annually, or we can have it, for 2 to 3 years, but the artists going to go through a process of getting onto the roster. So they're pre-qualified, and then we can pick from that roster after we go through that process. I think it would be really good, especially for such a dynamic project as.
Do we have any idea yet of when we would plan to launch the RFP for this?
Not yet. I'm working with Eric Bush, who is the project manager on the parking lot, and he's also working with leadership on the vision of the timeline. I do not have that yet. And then we'll be doing obviously some idea generation and figuring out how we can support this with our art fund. But then I would work internally with the team here at the city on knowing where things can be placed, how they're placed, all of the logistics of safety and so forth. So
This is a great example of being in on the project early on. So
we'll continue to give you updates as this progresses. Super.
Any other questions out there? Let's move on then. Discussion, sir.
So this brings us to figuring out, I think Sura sunsets in 2029, and it certainly isn't going to be hard to figure out how to spend money. I think we're all really talented at that. But, just making sure that we have a strategic plan for these funds. And we did get together and chat a little bit about the what ifs. But what I would like to do is get a group of us together to figure out exactly what we have in mind for the funding. We already have locations identified for potential opportunities downtown. We have the Silver Box project, figuring out, do we want to continue that? We have Graffiti Alley that we're in partnership. Is there sustainable funding that we want to have reserve funds to help support that project? Those are things we kind of need to look at. And the way that I see this is we'll have our strategic plan and then we'll come back, we'll present it to the commission as a whole, and then we'll motion and vote on it. And that way we know and we can start working towards what those goals are and figuring out how to apply dates and deadlines to getting those projects completed. Who would like to be on that? Sura, so it's like public art funded by Sura, that strategic planning team. Ellie. Just get you a cut here.
I will say, if you need anything specific,
But Anna within reason. And of course, I'll pull you all in at different times, but.
Well, while we're here, let me ask about the Silver Box. You would have to ask Sura for more funds. You asked about it earlier. We would have to ask Sura for some more funds to continue the project. It takes $4,000 year-ish at this point. If we do $1,000 stipend to each, I think it's a great program and I would like to see it continued.
why do we have a separate budget for Silver Box? Why doesn't that come straight out of the downtown budget?
Well, it technically does.
Okay,
It's the only thing we have going right now.
it's ongoing.
Yes.
Okay. And the way that Sura works is we come up, we're either asked to participate or we come up with a plan and we present it to Sura, the Sura board. And this Sura, the Sandpoint Urban Renewal Agency, it's interesting because it's separate from the city. So it's actually a separate entity. So we work with their board and we ask, and they decide how the funds are to be used. And there's a set of criteria about how the funds can be used as well. So I will be prepared for that meeting to have all of that ready for you all to understand, and I'll also present it to the commission meeting as well.
So we have to seek approval for every project.
That's correct.
We do, and then it basically creates a sub budget
Right.
for that project. Okay.
For instance, for the parking lot, we'll end up with a sub budget. Then we'll finally have a second project budget.
Okay. I think the infrastructure for the Silver Box is already established. I think as long as we keep having strong applicants, it makes sense to continue getting people.
I think it's a good entry level public artist project, basically.
Great way to showcase 3D art. And you guys certainly worked out all the bugs at this point.
I think so. That's what it was so hard fought to do it. In the end, I would hate to go have it wayside. And I think it actually is when it gets, we give preference to local artists, obviously, and gets those artists out there. We can start training up those public artists, our community, and I think people like it. And then we get people talking about the commission too, if they don't like
Yeah.
it, which I don't.
I don't really know where I'm going with this, but I remember somebody saying that when they redid the street infrastructure on Cedar, they specifically put in spaces on that with extra weight capacity, so that sculptures could be installed there if possible. It doesn't really make sense to me to consider the idea of ever moving the Silver Box project just because it's already there, but are the stands for the Silver Box project, are they portable or are they like
No, though I believe that they're
Bolted
Rick, you can
down.
help me. They're bolted down.
Okay.
The bolts are drilled in the sidewalk and then they're.
And those are things to think about. Is there public art out there that could, be relocated to a different place or, like, I think when we're talking about, this plan, we also will have an understanding of what is already done, and how does that fit with what we want to do? Where are those locations and opportunities? It's kind of that larger holistic view. I'm glad you're going to be helping. It's like, I have boundaries. And I'm like, oh, I also have opinions. I think it will be fun. And then that will also lead us, this is it's a extensive like thought process because so when Sarah sunsets, where is that funding going to come from, right? So we need to think about in all of our master plans, it's saying, the community wants this. So how do we sustainably integrate that into all of the projects? So it's figuring that out and looking at how other municipalities successfully do it. That's one thing. Then we also historically for this group have had a funding source called Art for the Inch. I think that's a good idea to be able to have that again. So do we rebrand that? Do we activate that? And then the third one is always sponsorship and from the community and businesses as well. So kind of figuring out what are those funding sources? How can we marry those to different projects? And we want sustainable funding too. Right. So it will be a fun meeting. Okay, great. So I think our last one is the community-driven art.
Community-driven art program, painting the plows. So about a week and a half ago, some of us went out and primed the plows. These girls were there. My son were there. It was a lot of fun. Didn't take us very long to bust it out. And Sherry and the creations are over there right now, putting the base coat on, and we should be getting this wrapped up this week.
So cool.
I loved running in, was it Chad?
Chat.
Okay. It was so fun yesterday when you handed this concept to Chet, who manages the plows, right? And I loved how he was immediately like, ooh, that one's me. That one's my. So.
Yeah, like in a rosy colored like glass world, like everything's super easy, right? But in the reality of life, like everything is complex. And so with this project, it's been a really fun one. So when I originally thought of community-driven art projects, like, oh, we get permission, we find the funding, and then we marry, a organization to it, like super easy. Well, it is pretty complex because we have to figure out, how to prep the plows and how to organize the streets guys and make sure it fits within their schedule and then organizing it with creations. And we are so lucky because everybody is so wonderful to work with. Ellie is, as you all know, so amazing. You've been such a huge support on this one because it does take a lot of time and a lot of thought and a lot of, boots on the ground. And so I'm so grateful for you for really spearheading this one and making sure everything runs smoothly. She went down, she took, the idea of the images and she actually placed them on the exact plows, like just total hats off to you and celebration of you. One of the things too, as we move forward, this isn't a sustainable art project because obviously by the end of the season, we'll have to redo it. But, I think we learned a lot from this round and moving forward, we would love to be able to have artists, have more of a vision, for the direct art. But one of the things that we had to balance was making sure that we had just kind of a really fun, low-hanging fruit design, and considering too, all of a sudden it went from 2 plows to 5 plows. And then in addition, what is the image that the plow guys would feel comfortable like having on the front of their trucks, because they get a lot of community feedback, good and bad. And so whatever we have on there, we didn't want it to feel anything for them to have to deal with. So there's a lot of complexity in this that you wouldn't think of originally. So the faces are essentially the way to be able to bring the plows to life and give the actual like vehicle that does the work a soul. And so we certainly, once this is done, we'll figure out kind of how we want to launch this together. But I think that maybe we want to have the community name them. I mean, I just want you guys to really have fun with this and kind of keep expanding it. So.
Do we know if there's any sort of like finish that could prevent the salt from being the paint, or is that kind of a
just being there with the plows, but I think this is basically a temporary art project. And that's okay,
yeah, it should gender goodwill.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah. So we certainly are celebrating Ellie. We're celebrating Sherry and her team at Creations. And we're celebrating the paint bucket for donating all of the supplies.
Yes, they were very, very
so amazing. And we're also celebrating our streets team for, I think, gosh, Todd is just in charge of making us happy with us. So. Tony.
No, Tony was great getting everything set up, and
Chet, Rod, and you know what I love is that when we showed them the images, they stop and they laugh. That happiness. So I think we know.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited to finish them up and see how the community likes them, and then hopefully, in next year.
And also thank you and your family too, celebrating you and everyone that worked on priming them too, and that were a part of it.
Yeah, the girls had fun.
Super cool and amazing photo. That's a good front pager.
Yeah. Yeah, our dog even got involved. So.
Tomorrow.
Today
and tomorrow, and it's at the shop. So if any of you want to stop by and be a part of it, where is the shop?
Well, the shop is over by the airport, like right across from the airport lobby building.
Do you access it from Boyer or from Shorter?
Actually, it's you go on Ebbett Way and it turns into Industrial Drive.
Yeah, I was on the other side and just like wandering around. Like, I'm sure I'll find it. 15 minutes late. Oh no, you just low key.
So yeah, head over there right now and see how the base coat's going, and then 11 o'clock.
So exciting. Yeah. It's we've been talking about a lot of this for a while. It's really fun to see everything come to life. Yeah. All right. Well, is there any other questions on any of our team updates? All right, then let's move on to the general announcements. Anyone have any general announcements today? The museum is going to be hosting museum days, July 2nd through the 6th. Each day we will have a different tour and we will have a different kids activity. And we will be open on July 4th. So after the parade, people can come over and I think we're going to be doing a tour that day about independent. Yeah, and if you, during that week, if you either sign up for a new membership or bring someone with you who has never been to the museum, get entered in a drawing for a $100 credit for historic photos.
That sounds fun. How are you going to advertise that you're open on the 4th?
You got a float?
Yeah, how are we going to get the word?
None of those. Not over.
Okay, yeah, let me know.
Okay.
Let's get it out there.
Yeah. Okay.
We are an update from us. We are looks like we get to install our first set of windows. We will greatly improve the facade of this building. So the first set of windows will be upstairs on the corner of Main and 2nd Avenue, facing 113 Main Street. So that horrible white window will finally disappear, thank goodness. I was about to paint it myself. So I think that's a good thing. So and then hopefully we can chew through all of the other windows as we are working with this building. So that's just a historic building update. I forgot because everything is so visual art focused that I sometimes forget the performing arts really should be part of the reporting as well. I went to Boise to ICA to present because we launched a multi-generational interactive program. It's called Music Matters Mature. It's sponsored by ICA that falls under the umbrella of creative aging. So we're going to be working within the community to find others who are interested in joining us in that pursuit and then write grants together with ICA. So we're inviting our seniors and mature learners into programs that tie them into the larger community. So if anybody came to Music Matters, the performance at the Canada, that was our first official attend. So we had Music Matters mature singers, I think almost 20, sharing the stage with children. So we had 118 musicians on the stage, and that was multi-generational, and it was hugely successful. So I presented on that last week, and I will present again June 18th. And hopefully we can stipulate other partners within the community to follow suit. And I think it's actually very exciting. So understanding the changing demographics of Sandpoint, we know that we are on the right track.
That's awesome. Thank you for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anybody else? Well, it looks like we're wrapped up then. Let's adjourn. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.